Now let's move on to biochemistry. So you know that biochemistry is the third subject in your first year MBBS, and as the name conveys, we have bio and we have chemistry. So it's basically the chemistry in the living organisms. We are studying the chemistry in biology, or we are studying the chemistry in living organism, or we are studying the chemistry in the human body. So that's what we are basically doing. And again, similar to physiology, biochemistry is not that something which is new to you. Okay, biochemistry, you are familiar with biochemistry because you have learned about biochemistry in two areas. One in biology, you have learned about biomolecules, right? In biology, you have learned about biomolecules. Again, in chemistry also, you have learned about biochemistry or about biomolecules. So two subjects in your higher secondary education, biology and chemistry, have introduced you to the world of biochemistry. So you know about what you expect, or you know what you are going to see in biochemistry. Okay, so in biochemistry, what you are going to learn basically is certain chemical reactions. Okay, it's basically an organic chemistry itself. So here you are going to learn about certain basic chemical reactions and what all are the results of those reactions. So you are going to learn about certain pathways. We are got lot of pathways. For example, glycolysis is a type of pathway, gluconeogenesis is a type of pathway. Okay, and different amino acids has got different mechanism. You know, you have learned about different mechanisms in different amino acids in biomolecules like cysteine, methionine, phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan, arginine, leucine, lysine, a lot of them. So you just know the name of them now, but in first year biochemistry, you are going to learn about in detail about each of these. Okay, so you are going to learn about different pathways. So in biochemistry, you have theory session as like any other subject in first year and BBS. You have theory session and you have the practical session. So whether it be theory or practical, what you are going to learn the most here, or what you are going to stress the most here, is about one will be carbohydrates. Okay, I'm just introducing you to the subtopics of biochemistry. One will be the proteins, and the third one will be the lipids. Fourth one will be the genetics, and fifth one will be, let's say, applied biochemistry. Okay, these are not the only topics, but these are the main topics that you are going to learn. So carbohydrates is a separate unit, protein is a separate unit, lipid is a separate unit, genetics is a separate unit, applied biochemistry is a separate unit. So in each of these units, you will be having many chapters. Okay, let's say for protein you will be having 5 or 6 chapters. For lipids you will be having 5 or 6 chapters. For genetics you may be having more than that. Okay, so you will be learning about different pathways. So I'll be just showing you I'm just introducing you. So this is actually the topics you are going to learn in biochemistry. We are not interested in all those subtopics, but just know this is actually the textbook you are going to learn. Vasudevan, that book is called Vasudevan, and Vasudevan is the book which I think is followed in most of the colleges in the country. Okay, in most of the colleges, Vasudevan is the book which is we will be discussing about all those books that you have to buy during your first year MBBS. We'll be coming to that, but before that, just look have a glance into it. So this is actually the topics that have chapters that have to be discussed in the Vasudevan. Okay, so the first unit that you are going to learn is about the chemical basis of life. And here you are going to learn about the basic introduction to, you can see that you are learning about here about the different cell organelles. Okay, we are learning about the different cellular organelles and cell membranes. We'll be learning about amino acids. So we have told you that protein is one of your main topics. So amino acid, you are just learning to the introduction to amino acid. You are just learning to the introduction to proteins. You are learning the introduction to enzymes. So we have enzymology, is a very interesting topic, guys. Enzymology, there are different types of enzymes and each of them has got a wide variety of function. Okay, so you are actually going to learn this name of all these enzymes. It's actually a bit difficult to learn, but over time everybody learns. Okay, so it's enzymology. Then we have the chemistry of carbohydrates in short. then the chemistry of lipids in short. So this is just the introduction. Okay, we'll be having carbohydrates, lipids and proteins coming again and again. Okay, so once you have completed with the chemical basis of life, the next one is the general metabolism. So in metabolism, you're going to start the metabolism of different nutrients. Like we are going to discuss about the metabolism of the carbohydrate, metabolism of protein and metabolism of lipid. So we'll be starting with the major metabolic pathways. So we'll be learning the metabolic pathways of glucose. So in this you can see that we'll be learning about glycolysis, we'll be learning about gluconeogenesis. Okay, now other than that also we have many pathways. Okay, not glycolysis and gluconeogenesis are not the only pathways in which glucose is involved. We have glycogenolysis, we have something called HMP shunt, we have a lot of pathways. So that we are going to discuss in the second subsection of the glucose metabolism. So that we will be learning about the glycogen metabolism, something called glycogen synthesis, and this is called the HMP pathway, hexose monophosphate shunt pathway. Okay, we'll learn about it, that we are not going to detail about it. Then we'll be learning about, so till now we have in carbohydrates we have discussed only about glucose. Now you will be learning about the fructose metabolism, the galactose metabolism. Okay, so that's about the metabolism of glucose. I'm not detailing it, guys, because detailing it doesn't make any sense. Okay, because you're going to learn about it. I'm just introducing it. Okay, just introducing it, or I'm just making you expect what you are going to see when you enter your biochemistry theory classroom or practicals. Okay, then we have the metabolism of fatty acids. So we have dealt with the metabolism of glucose. Now we have the metabolism of fatty acids. So in that we have different pathways. Again, then we have the metabolism of cholesterol. Okay, then about lipids. So we have completed about cholesterol, like lipid metabolism and glucose metabolism. So I'm not listing or detailing what we are studying here, because we have a lot of things there. Okay, so you are going to learn about it, but just know what all we are trying to convey or trying to learn. Okay, so we have done with the glucose, we have done with the lipids. Now comes the proteins. So we will be next starting with the amino acids. Okay, we will be discussing about amino acids. So in amino acid we have one important topic called urea cycle, and urea cycle is how the ammonia in our body is synthesized. Okay, how the ammonia in our body is synthesized, that's basically urea, or how the ammonia is converted to urea, that's basically the urea cycle. Okay, that's basically the urea cycle, how ammonia is get converted to urea. Then we have the to learn about different amino acids. So we will be learning it as groups. So there are some sulfur containing amino acids like cysteine, methionine, and simple amino acids like glycine and serine. Okay, then we'll come to branched chain amino acids, that is glutamic acid, aspartic acid, glutamine, asparagine, leucine, isoleucine and all. Then we'll come to the aromatic amino acids, phenylalanine, tyrosine, tryptophan, histidine and proline. Okay, then we'll come to the citric acid cycle or the TCA cycle. So you have learned about the TCA cycle or the citric acid cycle, because at the end of glycolysis what I am left is with the pyruvate. Now from pyruvate I have to produce NADH and FADH2, right? From pyruvate I have to produce NADH and FADH2, that is called citric acid cycle. So we'll be having learn about citric acid cycle. And we know that from glycolysis, at the end of glycolysis I am left with pyruvate. Now pyruvate enters the citric acid cycle, we get NADH and FADH2. Now from this NADH and FADH2 I have to make ATPs. Okay, now from this NADH and FADH2 I have to make ATPs. That's why I have the electron transport chain. Okay, even if you're not able to follow, it's perfectly fine. Okay, I'm just introducing you. Okay, I'm saying it again and again because I know that many of these terms will be new and you will be just looking what all are written under those main headings. Okay, I'm not discussing it because it's not essential. Okay, I'm repeating it again and again because I don't want to make you confused. Okay, now then we'll be learning about the hemoglobin, heme synthesis and hemoglobin. So that's about the general metabolism. So in the general metabolism, we are mainly discussing or learning about the carbohydrate, lipids, proteins, then about the cycles, okay, about the citric acid cycle, electron transport chain, and finally about the heme. Now we have the clinical and applied biochemistry. So this was our 5 subtopics. One was applied biochemistry or the clinical biochemistry. Okay, so here you will be learning about certain biomarkers. Okay, there are certain biomarkers. For example, if somebody has got heart attack, we have something called tropi. Okay, we have something called tropi that we can measure to know whether somebody's heart is damaged. Okay, so it's just an example. We have certain biomarkers. So those are called biomarkers. So biomarkers means, so it's this tropi. this tropa is actually a marker that I have got heart attack. Okay, if in my body, if the value of tropa is elevated, it simply means that I have gotten a heart attack. Okay, so those are called biomarkers. So you will be learning about different biomarkers here. Then you are going to learn about the regulation of blood glucose. So you know that we have the pancreas, from where we have alpha and beta cells, from which glucagon and insulin is secreted respectively. So you know that this helps for the control of blood sugar, and if you have got insulin deficiency or insulin resistance, patient will have something called the diabetes mellitus, where the blood sugar goes unchecked. Blood sugar will become very high. So you have to learn diabetes is such a common disease, guys. Diabetes is such a common disease. So one of every, if I am looking a patient in 2 patients in my OPD, one of them is usually diabetic. Okay, so that's how the prevalence of diabetes. It's very high prevalence for diabetes. So it's a very common disease. So you will be learning about diabetes in every year of your MBBS, and you will learning, and you will become a master of MBBS by the time you have completed your MBBS. Okay, so that's about the applied biochemistry. Then we have certain called dyslipidemias, or what we in layman's language we call the cholesterol. Okay, if somebody says you that I have got cholesterol, it simply means that they are called hyperlipidemias. Hyper means increase. Hyper means increase. Lipid means lipids or cholesterols. Emia means in blood. So hyperlipidemia means increase of cholesterol in blood. Okay. Then we have certain function tests. We have the liver function test or the gastric function test. For example, you know that if somebody has got jaundice, they will be having yellowish discoloration, and this is actually due to a pigment called bilirubin. You have heard its name. This is completely called something called bilirubin. So bilirubin is responsible for the yellow color of my skin when I have got jaundice. So to assess the function of liver, we have certain parameters. So collectively we call that as the liver function test. Okay, so function test actually mean, so you'll be learning or hearing about this term function test. So function test simply mean those tests which is used to assess an organ. So function test simply means, you will be hearing these terms again and again, that is function test. So don't get confused. Function test simply means those are those tests which is used to assess the function of an organ, or how well an organ is functioning, or how good the organ is performing. So for that we have certain parameters. We have something called bilirubin, we have something called albumin, we have called PTINR, we have got enzymes called SGOT, STPT and all. So that we will be learning in detail. So those are, so liver function test simply means those tests which is used to assess the function of liver. Gastric function test simply means those tests which is used to assess the function of gastric or the stomach. And kidney function test simply means those tests which is used to assess the function of the kidney. Okay, those tests which is used to assess the function of kidney. All right. Now you have something called plasma proteins. You know that we have plasma proteins, albumin, globulin, etc. We will be learning about plasma protein in details. Then we have something called acid-base balance and pH, which is extremely important. So as I've told you before, the normal pH of human body is 7.38 to 7.42. We usually, even if you don't know this value as this much precise, but know that the human body's pH is around 7.4. Human body pH is around 7.4. So we are having certain acids and alkalis in our body. So this 7.4 tends to go up or down. Okay, this pH may tend to become acidic or alkaline. So if there are certain systems in our body which helps to maintain the acid-base balance at exact 7.4. That means if my pH goes down, or if my pH becomes acidic, body will make it alkalized. Or if my pH goes up, that means if my body becomes alkaline, my body will try to, my function or my different systems in my body will try to make it back to normal, will make it acidic and will bring it back to 7.4. Okay, so there are certain mechanisms which take place to maintain the acid-base balance in my body. Similar to that, we have certain mechanisms to maintain the electrolyte and water balance. So I told you that our body contains certain electrolytes, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, etc. So to make these values, or the normal value of sodium also, I think I have told you it is between 135 to 145. So my sodium value, whenever I check, if I take 100 normal patients and check their sodium value, it should be between 135 and 145. Okay. If I take 100 healthy people and I'll check their sodium, it will be between 135 and 145. It is because certain mechanisms or certain functions or certain organs in my body are functioning to maintain the sodium at that particular level. Similar to that, certain organs like kidneys trying to maintain the water balance in my body. I should have optimal amount of water in my body. Okay, then you have something called body fluids like CSF and all. You have metabolic diseases, you have free radicals and antioxidants, you have something called clinical laboratory. Okay, you have certain techniques for the separation purification. Okay, so again, this you have learned its basic in your plus 2 itself, like electrophoresis. You have heard the term electrophoresis. You have very well heard the name chromatography. That means separation in based of color. Electrophoresis is separation based of the weight of the or the charge of the molecule. Chromatography is based on separation on based of the color of the molecules. Okay, all right, so these are the things that you are going to learn in the applied biochemistry. Now at the beginning I have left one topic, guys. It's not actually 5, you have something 6 which is very important that I have left here. That is the vitamins. So in biochemistry, you have carbohydrate, you have protein, you have lipid, you have nucleic acids, you have nucleic acid will come in genetics. Okay, you have genetics, you have applied biochemistry, and finally the 6th number is vitamins. Vitamin is also important. Okay, so having learned about this, the next thing you are going to learn is about nutrition. Okay, the next main unit for you is the nutrition, where you are going to learn about the vitamins. So you know that we have the fat soluble vitamins and the water soluble vitamins. Fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E, K. Okay, and water soluble vitamins B, C and H. Okay, A, D, E, K, B, C and H. I hope you know the name, okay, or the chemical name of all these vitamins. Vitamin A is called retinol. I am not writing it, I am just introducing it to it. Vitamin A is called retinol. Vitamin B, we have many separate types of vitamin B. B1 is called thiamine, B2 is called riboflavin, B3 is called niacin, B5 is called pyridoxine, B5 is called pantothenic acid, B6 is called pyridoxine, B9 is called folic acid, and B12 is called cyanocobalamin. Okay, now we have vitamin C which is called ascorbic acid, we have vitamin D which is called cholecalciferol, vitamin E which is called tocopherol, and vitamin K which is called phylloquinone. Okay, so these are just the chemical names. Don't get scared, you will learn it. Some of you might have known it, some of you might be knowing it already, because certain entrance institutes again teaches this. Okay, so some of you might be knowing this, but even if you don't know, it's perfectly fine, you're going to learn about it. So we have the fat soluble vitamins which is A, D, E, K, and we have the water soluble vitamins which is B, C and H. I think I have forgot to tell the name of H. Vitamin H is called biotin. Vitamin H is called biotin. Okay, so you're going to learn about the fat soluble vitamins, then you're going to learn about the water soluble vitamins. Okay, then you are going to learn about certain minerals. So I have told you that we have certain minerals in our body. You can see here calcium, phosphorus, okay, magnesium, sulfur, iron, copper are not that important. Then what is important here? Okay, the major one is calcium, phosphorus and magnesium. Then we have sodium and potassium. Sodium and potassium you will learn in detail. That's why it's not mentioned here. Okay, sodium and potassium you will learn in detail. Then we have the energy, metabolism and nutrition. Energy, metabolism and nutrition, detoxification, environmental pollution, etc. Okay, these are all the topics in biochemistry. Then we move on to the molecular biology. So this is where genetics comes. So here you will be learning about nucleotides. You know what is the difference between a nucleotide and a nucleoside. Okay, you have learned about it. So here you will be learning about the nucleotide. Then the structure of the DNA. And transcription. You know, DNA again becoming DNA is called, okay, I'll write it here. DNA again becoming DNA is called, this is called replication. DNA becoming RNA is called, this is called transcription. And RNA becoming protein is called, this is called translation. Okay, so we have got replication, we have got transcription, and we have got translation. I hope it's clear to everyone. Okay, so DNA becoming DNA is called replication, DNA becoming RNA is called transcription, and RNA becoming protein is called translation. So it's just the simple flowchart in the genetics. So each of these terms you are going to learn in extra detail. So you can see the transcription is a separate chapter here. Okay, transcription is a separate chapter here. Then you have the translation, which is again a chapter. Then you have control of gene expression. Then we have the recombinant gene technology, what you have learned in the biotechnology. Okay, you have learned about biotechnology. You know about restriction endonucleases. You know the vector. You know what vectors are. You know what plasmids are. So you'll be learning about it in detail. So you'll be learning about recombinant DNA technology and molecular diagnostics and genetic techniques. Now finally, you have the hormones. But hormones, actually guys, hormones you are going to learn in detail in physiology. So hormones, even though it's mentioned in the biochemistry textbook also, hormones you are going to learn more in the physiology. It's actually its biochemical area is somewhat less, okay, because the same thing you are going to learn in physiology also. So I have told you in physiology that we have something called the endocrinology. So in endocrinology you are going to learn about hormones. So actually in biochemistry you are not going to learn much about hormones. Okay, and finally you have the advanced biochemistry. This is actually a subset of applied biochemistry itself. Okay, this is also not that important. What is important we have written it initially, that is carbohydrate, protein, lipid, genetics, applied biochemistry and vitamins. These are the 6 important topics in biochemistry, and I have shown you the subtopics that you are going to learn also. Okay, I have shown you the subtopics you are going to learn also. Okay, different pathways, different cycles. Okay, then about different vitamins, then finally about applied biochemistry, in this which you are going to learn about immunochemistry, biochemistry of AIDS, biochemistry of cancers. Okay, actually these are not those that important topics, but you will be just learning about those, but you are actually going to learn about hormones and AIDS, HIV and all in physiology more detail than biochemistry. So this is about biochemistry, guys. So as at the beginning itself I told you that anatomy session was, I think anatomy session alone was about 2 hours long, but physiology and biochemistry I think I have taken only about 1 hour, say 1 hour 15 minutes for those both. It's simply because I have told you the reason, these 2 simpler reasons. Anatomy is something which is completely new to you, physiology and biochemistry is something you have learned already. Okay, physiology and biochemistry is something you have learned already. And second reason is anatomy is somewhere you are going to spend the most of your time in your first year. That's why I have spent more time in anatomy to introduce you to the basics. And in physiology and biochemistry, you are well and good with certain topics, because for example, in certain topics, for example, in transport of oxygen or transport of carbon dioxide, you are not going to learn something new than what you have learned in your +2 or +1 higher secondary education. Okay, so it's more or less similar that but some topics will get more completely wider. Okay, for example, you have barely learned anything about clotting factors in your higher secondary education, but here you are going to learn about it in a separate chapter itself. Okay, so some of this will become very elaborate, very few of them will become same, but to every topic you are going to learn in physiology or biochemistry, you have something basic already which you have built in your higher secondary and high school education. But unlike anatomy, you don't have there. Anatomy is completely 70 or 80% which is completely new to you. Only certain subtle topics you will be already knowing in anatomy. Okay, so that's why we have spent more time in anatomy and relatively lesser time in physiology and biochemistry. I hope it's okay to everyone, and I hope you guys are now very well and good with, you know what you're going to expect when you're going to step into your first year MBBS class. Okay, so this is not the end, this is just the end to the curriculum. Okay, this is the end to the curriculum.